Good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, gorgeous. Don't forget to smile. As you look radiant as you are the queen of your Nile, wake up, beautiful. It's time to spread your wings. Open up your window and hear the songbirds as they sing.
Welcome to Good Morning Gorgeous, your Saturday morning dose of inspiration. I am Sharonda Steele, and
I'm yours truly, Larrecia Williams.
so today we decided to do something a little bit different. We're going to shake it up a little bit. Normally we will have a guest, but we've been thinking about the fact that you guys don't hear enough of us and just who we are. So that's what today is going to be about. We are going to learn about our very own Larrecia Williams. And we're just going to talk a little bit about her journey, and where she is now. And that way you get to know her a little bit more. On another podcast, you'll get to hear a little bit more from me, and we'll go from there. So, welcome, Larrecia.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharonda.
It's weird when you're on the other side of the yeah.
It is. It feels different. It feels different.
Well, look, sip on your coffee from your Good Morning Gorgeous mugs, Bluegrass Design and Services, and we're gonna go ahead and just kick this thing off. So I think that most people, they do hear from us when we talk to others, and they kind of get a little glimpse of who we are. But I thought it would be important for us just dive into a little bit more of who we are. But I want to do it a little bit differently. We normally have kind of some guiding thoughts that we like to share with our guests so that it kind of help with the conversation. But I'm going to open us up first with our just an opening question. But then I'm going to play a little game.
Okay.
Lisa,
Okay.
called 21 Questions.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Now we may not get through all 21, and that's perfectly fine. We could call it 10 or 15 questions. I don't know. But I'm literally just going to throw out some fun questions, and you'll be able to answer those. And those will come in between some other discussions, or those questions may bring up some other parts of the discussion. And we'll just have a nice little talk for the next 30 minutes. How about that?
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, so Larrecia, first off, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I think for not the most part, because we'll have so many people watching this that will see who you are as you right now. I mean, who is that 5 or 6 or 7-year-old Larrecia? And what has been a journey from that little girl to the woman we see today?
Wow. First off, I just, from being you're saying the little girl, Larrecia, up until I am now, I owe all my credit to my wonderful, beautiful mom who has, and I may get emotional during this interview. Of
I was
course,
going to
most
say,
of
do
you
you have
already
your
know.
tissues? Do you have
I
your
don't have
tissues?
it. I'll have to grab some. I don't think, oh, I do have a box right there, so I'll make
Okay,
sure I
good.
get it.
Okay, good.
Um, that my mom, she has been an awesome inspiration to me from day one. You know, me growing up being a twin, I always had, she was my twin sister was my best friend. Always having somebody to talk to, always having somebody to play with. Um, and then, but the times when we were sick and having to go our separate ways, to go to school, and while the other one's at home sick, you're like, I don't feel well either. You try to stay
Aww.
home because we were, you know, that close, and we're still that close, even though sometimes we drive each other crazy and may get on each other's nerves now, but in our adulthood, but we have that connection. And I feel like for the most part, I feel like it's because we're twins And the story that they say about twins is true. Regarding the feelings, you have these instincts when your twin brother, sister is hurt or whatever. But she has experienced it more than I have. And I tell everybody, even though she's the older twin, that I act older. That I act older than her. But for me, as a child, I don't know. And I can't say that I've always had like the feeling of wanting my own job, but as a kid, my mom, she worked so hard to provide the best for us. Not having my biological father in my life, my mom was my king and my queen. She was my king and my queen because she held it down. And I give praise and honor to my great grandmother, Virginia Holly Beecham, for being there too. When my mom worked second shift, she was the one taking care of us when we were young. We would sit. I remember so many nights when mom was gone, we'd sit in my grandmother's room on the floor with our favorite pillow, watching Billy Graham, watching Little House on the Prairie, watching some old Westerns and all that kind of stuff. And she was a true inspiration. There was nobody like her. She was an amazing woman. And because it was like, she was our second mom, but that was Granny, for being there to help take care of us while my mom worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So right now, your current career field, you are like many folks out there. You work a full-time job, but you're also an entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about, and of course, you're a mom, sister, who's actually been on the podcast before. You guys go in and check that out. Daughter, all of the above. How are you juggling all of those pieces of you? And, what is the difference with, or how does it work with you having your full-time job, but then also being an entrepreneur at the same time and having to give them both a good amount of attention so that they both are successful?
Yeah. Well, I just started a new position the end of January as a payroll specialist. So that job has been, it's a lot to learn, but I've always been a go-getter. I've always been a go-getter. Always want to learn, always want to add to my resume, always want to add to the knowledge, because, everything that we learn, it stays here, and nobody can take that away from us. And I feel like we ourselves are our worst enemies. And what I mean by that is, we may want to do something, but we're too afraid to step out and do it. So, and with me, I wanted my own business. I started feeling like I wanted my own business in the 90s, but it didn't happen. Back in the 90s, I have banking, background in banking. I was a head teller for one of the local banks here. I've worked for law firms, and I have, people may say, oh, you jump around a lot. But for me, if I feel like I'm in a position and I'm not growing, then it's time for me to move on.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck, and I don't want to have any limits to what I want to learn, what I want to achieve, and it's going to help me grow. That's just who I am. And it's been a challenge, I started out, when I was working for a real estate office, I started out and I was doing real estate on the side. And what I mean by that, real estate assistant, I was putting myself out there. I was doing, creating flyers, open house booklets, um, being able to go to some of the houses and, and take pictures and, dealing with L-Bar. I love the creative side. I love being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So me finally being out front, it was very challenging at first, but, and I love people. I love networking. And so initially when I started out, doing that real estate, assisting, and then that didn't last very, very long, but I started selling Avon. That's what really was officially my own business, me becoming an entrepreneur, was selling Avon. Well, I feel like I spent more money with Avon than I did make money, because at the time when I started doing Avon, Avon had the most, the clothing, the shoes, everything that they had. I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to buy that. And I consider myself a fashionista, and I didn't always feel that way, but the show What Not to Wear, I don't even know do you remember the show What Not to Wear?
I remember it.
Oh my God. Every day on my lunch hour years ago, I'm sitting in there and I'm watching What Not to Wear. So What Not to Wear helped me start, learning how to coordinate my clothes. And at that time I was like, I was going through something and I wanted more. I didn't want to continue to feel depressed. I didn't want to continue to feel like I'm not beautiful. I had to grab a hold of my life. And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting ready to change. I said, I know that I'm not a Halle Berry or Jennifer Lopez, but I'm me.
That's right.
And I love me. I love myself.
Yeah.
In spite of what I was going through, I love me. And from that day forth, I've changed who I am. I've changed my demeanor. And I've also actually had to change the people that I was connected to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because when we're going through something, that I feel like that's when you find out who your true friends are.
Yep.
You find out who your true friends are, to see who's going to be there for you. I'm a giver like my mom. My mom is a giver. She's always been there and helped so many people in our family. And and I'm the same way, whether it be my family or, or my friends. But being a giver like we are, we sometimes get burnt.
Oh, wow.
You get burnt. And then you just got to let some people go when it gets to that point. But being able to juggle my full-time job and being an entrepreneur, it was hard, and it still has I still have my moments, but I love what I do with my full-time job and with being an entrepreneur, because I love being able to travel and set up at different venues and different events and connect with other like-minded business people.
Exactly. No, that's good. Well, and I've said before that, Good Morning Gorgeous, I'm just a bit of a surrogate, I guess you could say, because it's really your brainchild, your baby, right? So why don't you share, where did this come from? I know how I felt when you first said it to me that evening, and you will share that in just a minute. But where did Good Morning Gorgeous podcast come from?
Good Morning Gorgeous podcast. While everybody is
you had to shift your whole body.
I did, because I'm shifting because it started with that picture that's sitting on my fireplace. That picture started Good Morning Gorgeous. I had attended a paint and sip with other powerful women, a networking, Power to Exhale, Lexington. We had a paint and sip at one of the ladies' home. And so usually when you go to a paint and sip, everybody is normally painting the same picture. Well, this particular event, when I got there, they had all these different pictures for us to choose from to paint. I was running a little late. And then I was like, oh man, I like that one, but that seemed like that's a whole lot of detail. All the easier pictures looked like they were taken.
Yeah.
And then there was something about that picture, that painting, that canvas that I was drawn to. And so I took the picture of the canvas, and everybody was painting, everybody's picking out what colors, and we were, eating and having really good, great time. There was like 15 to 16 women there. And God just started speaking to me. So I'm rattling through my purse and knowing that I should always keep a notebook. I used to keep a notebook with me all the time, but I didn't have a notebook in my purse or anything with me. I had a little bitty one, but not enough to write a poem that God was giving me. So I'm digging in my purse, and I had an envelope with a letter or something in there. And I take it out, and I'm just starting to write. God just began to feed to me a whole poem. And he had me title it Good Morning Gorgeous. And I was like, so ladies walking by, and I was like, Larrecia, what are you doing? You writing out your grocery list? They thought it was a grocery list. And I'm like, no, I'm writing a poem. And they was like, what? I was like, yeah. And I want to say, I think my friend Cheryl said, oh, something about, oh yeah, something about me write, because I write. God feeds me and I write. And the weird thing is, well, I don't think it's weird, but people say, well, how long did it take you to write a poem, or, something like that? When God gives me a poem, he gives it to me in its entirety. So I sit and I write. I don't write part of the first stanza and walk away. I write the whole thing. So within less than 10 minutes, the Good Morning Gorgeous poem was written.
And really quickly, for those of you that are listening or watching today, you get a small little piece of that poem at the beginning of every single podcast. Yes. And I've heard people, like I've been around, and folks that I know watch the podcast will go, good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, gorgeous. Don't forget to smile. It's like people are even just that little piece. They're grabbing that, which is a large part of that poem is an affirmation.
Yes.
For women. It really is. It is an affirmation. Yes. It is almost like a love letter to yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
It really is. And I've written close maybe to 90 poems, and I feel like the majority of my poems, I feel like are for us women, because I've always had a heart for women. And it goes back to when I've always wanted to be a mom, but when I felt like I couldn't be a mom, when the doctors didn't think I was ever going to have kids, learning that I had endometriosis, and that was what was preventing me from becoming a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, I even wanted, back then when I found out about that, I even wanted to start a women's group for women that deal with endometriosis.
Wow.
So I've always wanted to do something for women, and I feel like it's all in God's timing.
Yeah.
Because when I first approached you about it, you were like, well, let me think about it. Let me pray about it.
And in the back of my mind, I was going, I don't have time.
Right. Because you were still in school. I mean, you were still in school. You were still in school. Mm-hmm. And we let it lay for, I guess, maybe a few months or so, but it just kept popping back up in my spirit. And I'm like, I'm going to reach out to her again. Mm-hmm. And because I said, Lord, I started praying. I'm like, Lord, who is it that you want me to do this podcast with? And And I just kept praying that, and God just kept dropping you in my spirit. Because I remember, I think back to when you and I both used to teach the youth at church.
Yep.
You know, we shared ideas. We taught different ages. You taught the older ones, and I taught kindergartners.
Right.
And I remember our relationship and our
and by
contact
older, she mean first grade.
First grade, yeah. I was thinking, I don't know why I was thinking you did third or fourth grade, but you did.
No,
first.
I was first, and I would help with second sometime too. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brent, okay, that's right. Brent had the older fourth
He
and
had
fifth
the
grade.
older
Yeah.
ones, yeah.
He had the older, he had the older ones. But I'll never forget that. And we never got an opportunity to get real close. We would run into each other every now and then. But God just dropped you in my spirit, and I could not, let that go. I couldn't put it to bed. You know what I'm saying? It just kept, waking me up. And so I'm so glad that you decided to accept it after the second or third time.
I think it was the third time. I'm like, okay, let's meet and talk.
Yeah.
I said, let's meet and talk. And we met at a restaurant.
Yeah. And we shut it down.
And we shut it down. As soon as you said the name to me, it was like, that's it. Like, I don't know if you remember when you said the name to me, and I'm like, oh, I got so excited, like, oh, you're on to something. Like, that's it. Like, that is it.
Yeah.
And then while we were sitting there talking, we're going through all this stuff, and something just kept saying to me, your Saturday morning dose of inspiration, because that's what this has become.
Yeah.
We have women sharing their stories and their testimonies and giving information. And we always end off where someone is able to give a level of encouragement to someone or a word to someone. So that is exactly what this has become. Your Saturday morning dose of inspiration.
Get you started for the day.
Get you started for the day.
Get you started for the day. And I feel like everyone is beautiful. Everyone is beautiful. And like my favorite testimony song that I used to lead is Encourage Yourself in the Lord.
That's
so
right.
If we don't encourage ourselves, it starts with us encouraging ourselves.
Yes.
We have to do that. And I feel like when you encourage yourself, you regain, every time you encourage yourself every single day, you gain something back that you lost. Okay? You gain another inch of strength. You gain, glory, hallelujah. You gain another inch of power over who you are and who you are becoming.
So good.
So every day you have to encourage yourself.
And that's what this does. And I think even just that opening stanza to the poem, it does that, right? It is, I think that as women, a lot of times we look for validation to come from so many other people, and we almost feel depleted a lot of times when that doesn't happen. Instead of being able to encourage ourselves and affirm who we are.
Yes.
And who we're becoming, as you said, we have to be able to do more of that. So, I mean, I think that your journey, and of course, getting the podcast started, and although it took a couple of asks, I think that it was God ordained, and it was meant to happen for both of us.
Yes.
And I'm glad that it is, and that it has happened. And we're hoping that, I don't know when you will see this or watch this, but we are going to start having regular Good Morning Gorgeous brunches each spring, and a Good Morning Gorgeous conference each fall. So, as you begin to watch these videos, and this could be a year or two from now, make sure you check us out. Because there will be more to come for sure with the podcast.
Yes.
So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to get to my fun questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What are your hobbies?
Oh, girl, I got too many to name.
Give us three.
Okay, my hobbies are I love writing poetry. I love singing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. And I feel like I love meeting people. That could be a hobby. That's a
Yeah, no,
hobby.
no, no. It is definitely a skill. I don't have it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
a skill. I am not extroverted at all. And I do think that's one of the things I enjoy about you is because you don't mind going up and talking to people. Where me, I'm like, I'm going to sit right here at this table and let someone say something to me every blue moon, but not very often.
I didn't used to be. I did not.
Well,
My
maybe
sister
I'll
was
have some
always
change
the
later. I
one.
don't know.
Girl, it's coming.
Oh
It's
gosh.
hang around me long enough, girl. It's coming.
Do you collect anything?
Girl, clothes, shoes, and books.
You didn't say hats. I'm so surprised.
That's a newbie, okay? That's
Okay.
that's been within the last, I want to say within the last year, because I feel like I want to say that I bought the first group was early part of last year.
Mm,
So that's a newbie. So I'm
that's a
now
newbie.
probably, yeah, that's new. That's a newbie. And I just bought last month. I bought two new hats. I haven't showed them to you yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I got two new ones, girl. They sharp.
What's on your bucket list?
Oh wow. On my bucket list, I don't travel a whole lot out of like, I guess a fear that I've always had is like I want to go out of country, but I'm so nervous about going out of the country.
Yeah.
But I've never been on a cruise. I would love to go on a cruise. Girl, my sons
Okay,
would
we should
my
do that because I've never been on a cruise, but I really want to go.
I
And
want
I
to
thought about
go.
planning a cruise next year, so we should definitely do that.
I would love to go on a cruise. So
Yeah,
that
that'd be
going on a
nice.
cruise is on my bucket list. To write the two books that I have within me is on my bucket list. I have two
Mm-hmm.
books that I want to write.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my bucket list. And I mean, and eventually I would love to see bluegrass designs and services, because there's two sides to that. There's the
Yeah.
side where, I have the merchandise, I create t-shirts and all that. But then you also have the other side where I love doing wedding invitations, birthday invitations, greeting cards, all that. So I'm just seeing, where God is going to lead me because I know that I have to zoom in on which one I really want to focus on. But if God allows me the opportunity to do them both and them both grow, and I fully one day be able to do them both fully as a full-time job, I would love to fully run my own business and not work for
Yes.
anybody else.
So good. So good. It may not be a favorite, but what is a childhood memory that has always stuck with you?
Wow. Um, my mom would always, when we would, kids really not wanting to go to the doctor, but my sister and we look forward to going to the doctor and the dentist. And the reason being is because my mom never has learned how to drive. She
Mhm.
never, at one time in her life, she had an interest, but you know, she just was like, when she was gonna try to learn, and when she learned, she got so scared and almost wrecked. So she was like, no, I'm done. But when it was time for us to go to the doctor and the dentist, we were excited because we got to go in a cab when we were young. We would go get in a taxi cab, go to the dentist, and then after the dentist and the doctor's office, our visits, we always got to go to Long John Silver's for lunch. I will
Mm,
never forget that as long as I live. That was always a
wow.
treat that we always got to
Yeah.
go get in a cab, drive, in a cab and go to our appointment. And then my mom always treated us to lunch every time we went to the, to the doctor or the dentist. And even though my mom didn't drive, every year when the circus came to town, we were on a bus going to downtown Louisville Gardens for the circus.
Wow, that's incredible.
Every year.
Wow.
Every year.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So you are a Kentucky native. You've been in Kentucky all of your life. Have you
All of
ever
my
lived
life.
anywhere else, or do you have the desire to ever live anywhere else?
Well, at one point in my life, I had thought about moving out of Kentucky. I thought about, moving to, Atlanta, Georgia, or even going to visit my family in New York. I've never been to New York. I would love to go to New York. And even at one point in my life, I would have always thought about, I would love to go and visit my family, my great aunt Laura in California. But I've never been. I've been to Georgia, but I've never been to New York, or I've never been to California. And I would love to be able to go and visit those places.
So good. So good. So we're getting close to our time coming to an end. I'll ask you 5 questions really quickly. You have to just say the first answer that comes to mind. You ready?
Ready.
Favorite color?
Red.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Inside or outside, your favorite place to be?
Inside.
Inside? Inside, good.
Yeah.
Favorite mode of transportation?
Driving myself. I get car sick when other people drive sometimes.
Yes.
Driving myself.
Are you an animal person or not?
No, I'm not.
Neither am I, but yeah. So now that we've gotten to know a little bit more about you, and as you think about just kind of your journey from that 5 little girl that I mentioned earlier to now, what is something that you would like to leave with our viewers or our listeners, kind of just about what something you learned from your journey, just something that they could probably take away from today?
What I would like to share is to everyone watching or listening, never give up on you. That's most important. Never give up on you. Regardless of the challenges that you face, never give up on you. Never give up on your visions. And and this is another thing, keep a journal. Keep a journal. And when the Lord speaks to you about different things in your life, write it in your journal, because you can always go back and reflect on that.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, pray, because even before we did this podcast, as I said, I prayed about it. I'm constantly praying about everything, because there were times in my life that I did not. That I did not pray, and things did not always go the way that I wanted it to go. But I always pray, and I always seek God now in everything that I do, because I don't want to mess up anything. I know that He has given me so many gifts and talents, and I want to be able to use them all for His glory and not mine. Not mine. I want to be in His will, not out of His will. And I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, but I'm striving to live a better life than I did when I was younger. Things that I've gone through, the cancer scare in 2018, those things. And that's why I live my life to the fullest. And don't allow somebody to tell you that you're less than anything. And one last thing, please don't share your visions with everybody, because there are people out here that will try to steal your vision, But my thing is, a copycat is not an original.
That's right.
What God gave to you, can't nobody take that away from you. They may try and mimic it, but the original is the best thing. And God knows.
Yep.
God knows who he gave that vision to.
Yep.
So keep a journal, write it all down. What the song says in the scriptures, it says, write the vision and make it plain.
Make it plain.
And then just pray over everything before you do anything. Because I wait for God. I wait to receive an answer from God now more than any time in my life. Because I don't want to mess up anything anymore.
That's so good.
And love yourself first. That's my last sentence.
And she sipped her coffee. Well, I am just so grateful that you are here today and that you became the visionary behind this and that you are obedient behind this podcast and everything that you're currently doing. I mean, I just see everything you touch, just gold everywhere we go. So I'm just grateful for you. And as I figure out this weird glare coming across my room here, we are going to sign off. Thank you all so much for joining us today with the Good Morning Gorgeous podcast. As we always like to say, find yourself,
believe in yourself,
and love yourself. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.